So I seem to always start with the word so. Just recapping what you've done then. So we had this situation last time. So tell me what was actually let's go all the way back. So you've done all of these, I think. Well, we've already kind of covered these together. So when we had this was kind of the easiest level one, wasn't it? Might use my little thing for nice and easy. Why is this easy? Okay, so we have exactly the same number of y's. Now it's slightly harder than the easiest of easy because there's a positive and negative y. Now there are two ways to deal with this. We did it one way, which is we multiplied through by -1 because that enabled me to have plus y and another plus y. And then if you subtract, you get 0, so the y's gone. Any ideas another method that we could have used instead of timesing by -1? And we could have still got rid of the y's.
+2.
Y plus 2.
I guess
Okay, so if I plus 2y here, that would be the same, you're right. But I would have to plus 2y on this side, which would mess everything up. Because that would still give me another y. That's why we always multiply or divide. But there is another way we can look at, which is what happens if I add a positive and a negative together? But if I add the same number, like +2 and -2, what if I add those? You get 0, right? So another method we can look at eventually is actually instead of multiplying through by -1, if it's a positive and a negative, you can actually add them rather than doing the subtraction. I thought we could maybe go back to that later. What we've done is if there's the same number of y's here, same number of y's, that's good, but if the signs are different, we had to subtract by -1. That meant them the same, so we could just subtract. Okay? And that eliminated the y. Right? We then moved on. Didn't realise I'd put it in the wrong place. We then moved on to this one. What was different about this one compared to that first easiest one? Nothing's the same. Okay? The x's are different and the y's are different. But what was relatively easy about that situation is to rectify that. Well, we said we did the times -1. If we subtract, we still ended up with an x and y. So to deal with that, we didn't just do that. We had to multiply by -2. That meant now that the y, 2y and y, became 2y and 2y. Now what's interesting there is we only had to multiply one of those equations to make the numbers the same. Right? And I think we did that here as well. So we noticed that, well, this time we focused on the x. So 15x, 5x, we just need to multiply this one, all 3 bits by 3, but that meant that the 15x matched up in both of them. Okay? So what we are now on is a situation where when you look at it, there's no x's that are the same, and there's no y's that are the same, and you can't multiply 3 to make 2 nice and easily, and you can't multiply 2 to make 3. You can't multiply 2 to make 5, so it doesn't look like there's a nice simple multiplication to be done. But the process is still the same. We're still looking for either the x's or y's to be the same thing, the same number. Right? That eliminates them from affecting the answer. So any ideas? I will go with that. Let's find a lowest common multiple. Okay. And we've just got to pick either the x or the y. Which one do you want to go with?
Y.
The y? Okay. So let's look at the y's. So the lowest common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. So how do we do that then? What do we multiply the 2 by to get the 6? So if we multiply this through by 3, and what do we do with this one?
-2.
Good. So we're going to multiply that one by -2. You writing this? You with me? Yeah.
Do you want us to write this down?
Do you want me to pause and so you can write it? Are you with me at this stage?
Sometimes you don't want us to write it.
So, if this is equation number 1 and this is equation 2, what's my new equation number 1 going to be if I multiply through by 3?
6x plus 6y is equal to
6x plus 6y is equal to
20.
times by 3. 42. And my new, this time we've got new both of them. So my new number 2 is, so we're times it through by -2.
-10x.
So minus 10x plus 6y, which is the good bit now, equals -38. And now we deal with that. I'll pause there. So again, there's kind of several ways to think about this, but I do like to think now that we've got the y's the same, we've kind of eliminated it from the situation. So the answer has changed. How much has the answer changed? Well, if I look in that direction, I've added 38, -38 up to 42 is 80. So the answer has gone up 80. Y's has not changed, so +0. So we can eliminate that from the situation. But the x's has gone up 16. There's 16 x's. So therefore, this is kind of the approach I like to think of it as. Adding 16 x's must have added 80 to the answer. So therefore 16x has to equal 80. So x is 80 divided by 16. So we think x is equal to 5. So I'm going to use x equals 5 in which one? 1, 2, new 1 or new 2? In number 1, okay? Doesn't matter, but use number 1. So we've got 2 times 5 plus 2y has to equal 14. So 10 plus 2y equals 14, which means 2y has to equal 4, which means 1y has to be 2. So just to finish off, my answers are x equals 5, y has to equal 2. We should just check, maybe we can do it mentally, but I've used the first one. Okay, I've used x is 5 in question 1 to find y. So that will be correct. But what happens if I'd made a mistake with x equals 5? Let's say it was actually something different. Well, the y number, it would work for this one, but it won't work for the other. So we should just check, like I say, do it mentally. What's 5 times 5?
25.
25 minus 3 times 2 is 6. Does that equal 19?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good. I've checked in the other one, so I'm happy that I didn't make a mistake. Okay. Do I need to do the same process with this one, or is this a simpler one?
be not.
Yeah, so this one, although it is part of question 3, is simpler because quite often though people they just go straight away. They always use the same technique, and you could just multiply them both all the time, but we don't need to because we spot here, look, that the y's are actually easily attainable in this one. So we could just multiply this one by, not that one. I'm going to multiply this one by 3. So that gives me, number 1 is still 2x plus 9y equals 11. But the new number 2 is now 27x's plus 9y equals 3 times negative 63. Negative 189. For this one, guys, we've been focusing on the y's a lot, but let's do the x's. All right. It doesn't matter what you choose, but I figured let's do it. Just change. So we are going to focus on making these x's the same. So what do? I need to find the lowest common multiple of 5 and 2, and that is 10. So
Just back the reverse.
so yeah, so times by 2 times by 5. So my new number 1 is actually 10x's plus 4y's equals 76. And my new number 2 times by 5, well, that's 10x's minus 15y's equals 50 and 45, so that's 95. We went from positive 4y's down to negative 15y's. So that is a reduction, a minus how many y's? 19. Therefore, minus 19y's has to have the same value as 19. Right? So we can write under here that minusing 19y's is equal to 19, which is a nice and easy one, which means y must equal negative 1. So then we're going to use y equals negative 1. Which equation should we use?
1.
Equation 1. So we've got 5x plus 2 times negative 1 equals 38. So that gives me 5x minus 2 is 38. Which means 5x has to equal, or 40 minus 2 is 38. So 5x has to equal 40. Which means x is 40 divided by 5, which is
8.
8. So we end up with x equals 8 and y equals negative 1 as my final answer.